Good morning, how are we doing? It is Friday, the 18th of February, and today I'm going to be doing an upper body session. The split I'm on at the moment is pull, push, legs, rest, upper, lower, rest. Now the first leg session is quad focused, the second leg session is more posterior chain focused, so hamstring and glutes. But today, obviously, we'll be doing the upper body session. I'll show you how to set up your own upper body session because a lot of people don't actually know how to do it. Now, it will obviously depend on what you are prioritizing, what equipment you have available to you, etc. But I'll give you the basic layout of how I would set up an upper body session because there's many ways to skin a cat. Multiple ways to skin a cat. Okay, so structuring your own upper body workouts. Now, I'd like to start with basically whatever you want to prioritize, whatever it is that you feel is a weak point in your physique. So for me, it's always been my shoulders. My chest has always overpowered my shoulders. So I'll start with a lateral raise variation. Now you can see here what I'm doing I've got my cuff on my wrist and then I'm holding a D handle in my hand. Now the D handle isn't actually attached to the cable, it's just like, it's not attached. The reason for this is because I want to use the cuff so that it's not my grip that is the limiting factor from me being able to obviously progress, and also it just feels a lot better in terms of being able to connect with my side delt by using a cuff. But also by using and gripping the D handle, what that's going to do is increase the activation of the stabilizing muscles, in your back. So I had a big problem with that, which is what caused my shoulder injury, which is why now I'm learning from my mistakes and gripping onto that, and it does actually make a difference. So try that if you do cuffed lateral raises or any cuffed work. Try gripping a D handle and those stabilizing muscles, you should feel a lot more stable. Now here I moved on to a pull down. This is the hammer strength pull down. As you can see here, I'm also sat further back in the seat. A lot of people will sit fully forward on that seat with the chest up against the chest pad. Now, not only will that have a worse resistance profile because it's very, very hard to get this machine short. It's very heavy in the shorten range. By sitting back, it's going to make it drop off slightly in that shorten range, and also allows you to align better and think more about dragging your elbow down rather than pulling with your biceps. You'll see the angle at my elbow doesn't really change that much, whereas a lot of people you'll see, they'll finish like they would do in a bicep curl, like with their elbow fully flexed pretty much. Then we moved on to this chest supported row. You'll notice from this entire upper day that it's pretty much just back with shoulders and arms because I can't train chest obviously because of my shoulder. Can't do any pressing. I would do cuff flies, but the machine that I usually do them on is broke at the moment. So this is a dumbbell row with thoracic flexion and extension. So you'll see at the bottom, I'm really letting my thoracic spine, so the middle part of your spine, flex over that bench. And what that's gonna do is fully lengthen those traps, and at the top, we're thinking about bringing our chest off the pad, which is gonna fully shorten those traps. Now this is another angle of it, just so you can see it better. I'm thinking more about moving my scapula than I am my arm. I'm thinking slightly about driving my upper arm out and backwards, but less about that, so it's less of a row and more like just moving your scapula. That's probably the best way I could describe it. It hits the entire upper back, like the pump of this is insane, so try it. It's a little bit hard to get into it first and to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, it is very good. So yeah, on an upper body day, I would start by prioritizing your weak body parts. Now usually I would start with either a pull down or a press, so either an incline press, flat press, whichever it is. Most people need more upper chest, so I'd start with an incline press. Then I'd move on to a rowing movement after you've done your pull down. I like to go with a lat biased, or you can go with a lat biased or an upper back row, and then move on to either a flat press or a lower chest biased dip, which is what I like to program for a lot of my clients. Now here I'm doing this isolateral row where you stand back. Again, the reason for standing back is it improves the resistance profile, so it drops off in that shorten range where you're actually weakest, and I'm positioning my body and bracing against that pad so that I can really just think about tucking my elbow in and driving that elbow down. When it comes to back training, all you need to think is elbows flared, upper back, elbows tucked in, and when I say tucked in, I mean literally to the point where it's brushing your torso. Ollie, the guy I was training with, said to me after, like, my armpits hurt because you're doing so much rowing where your elbow's tucked in, that especially if, like Ollie, I think he shaves his armpits, which is probably why it's a lot worse for him, because his armpits are brushing together so much. Now this is a chest supported row, the hammer strength low row. Very good machine this, can get a great connection. And again, here, what I'm thinking about is, rather than retracting with my scapula, that's a mistake a lot of people make because they're taught this by PTs, is to begin with retraction. You don't want to begin with retraction. You want to begin by creating tension in your upper back. So thinking about driving your elbows outwards first, and then once your upper arm passes the midline of your body, so basically once your upper arm is in line with your body, then you finish the movement with retraction. That's going to basically encourage proper scapulohumeral rhythm, which is basically the relationship between your scapula and your upper arm. Then I finished off with some arms, so started off with a push down. What I like to do is I'll pick a movement which targets the tricep in the shortened position first. For example here, a push down, and then I'll do a bicep movement, usually either a preacher curl or a hammer curl. Today I went for hammer curls. I want those thick looking arms because I've got quite long arms with me being obviously 6'1", so I want to fill those arms out and make them look a lot thicker, so I'm getting stronger at these. I think this is with 20 kilo dumbbells, decent control. When I first started training about a month ago, I think I was curling the 15s, so that's decent progression. And then after this, I'll then move on to another tricep exercise, so rotating between bicep, tricep. So that's all I do. Start with prioritizing whatever weak body parts you've got, whether that be rear delts, side delts, whatever it is. Then move on to a incline press, a pull down, a flat press, or a lower chest bias dip. Then onto a row, that can either be upper back or lat biased row. And then we go into our arm work by doing tricep, bicep, targeting the shortened ranges first and then the lengthened ranges. So here this is targeting the lengthened range a lot more, so because we've got that arm overhead, and basically the cable is producing the most resistance at the bottom when my elbow is fully flexed, and then dropping off slightly as I extend up. Then we move on to face away cable curls. By this point I've got a lovely arm pump. This is again going to target that bicep, the long head of the bicep, because you've got that arm extended behind you slightly, and also the resistance is the strongest at the bottom because that cable is near enough making a perpendicular, so almost making a 90-degree angle to my upper arm, which means the resistance is going to be the heaviest there, and then it'll drop off slightly. This is a very good exercise. And then moving on to this rear delt cable fly. I would usually do this seated. I don't really like the pec deck that much because it doesn't give you much freedom in terms of that range of motion. You're limited to that horizontal plane of motion, whereas here I can set the cable up slightly above my shoulder, which creates that 45-degree angle, which is actually going to align that force with the way that your rear delt fibers run. So the main 3 points to take away from that is to start with the muscle groups which you think are lagging. So for me, it's my side delts, so I start with that. Then the second point is to rotate between a chest and a back exercise. I like to start with the back exercise because my pressing feels a lot better with a pump in my back. Now obviously I can't train chest at the moment, so I'm not doing that. You could potentially throw in an overhead press in there as well, but the majority of people will be getting enough volume from their incline and their flat pressing, so don't need to do any form of overhead press. And then for arms at the end, I like to pick exercises which target those muscles in their shortened position first. For example, the triceps, we start with a push down and then finish with an overhead extension. For the biceps, we start with either a preacher curl or a hammer curl and then move on to a face away cable curl. So that's going to be all for today's video, boys and girls. Drop a like if you took some value from it. Subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll see you in the next video.